of the Embark.live. Today we're going to be talking about growing your team. And what's so exciting about growing your team and making sure you can capacity build properly is it gives you really the opportunity, guys, to be able to hire and grow based on not just where you see your business going in terms of where your future projections are, but also in terms of how you can build around basic skill sets and then also be able to exercise your own leadership qualities. Now, one of the things that I actually find to be the most challenging are that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners really fail across principles of leadership. And when it comes to growing your team, it's not just about how can you hire a bunch of people. You can hire the most brilliant and amazing people, but without the right leadership strategies, it kind of doesn't matter, right? It's one of those things where you can, someone could hire me, for example, to help them with a brand or a product launch. But if they don't have the leadership or the ability to harness and work with that talent, then actually, guys, there's no point in hiring and working with some of the best people in the industry. And so when you're starting to look at how to grow your team, what I really want you to be focusing on are, number one, kind of what your core skill sets are. So what are the things that are actually super important for you? Meaning these are the things that you are really good at. These are the things that you want to get better at doing. And these are ultimately the places in the world that you're going to be able to exercise that. So when you think about what you love to do and what you're great at, those need to go down on a list of core competencies. Now, in addition to that list, you also want to be taking a look at things like what are the pain points that you have in your business. Now, one of the second most difficult things that entrepreneurs do is they have a hard time delegating and a hard time being able to hand over responsibilities. Boy, if you do not hand over your responsibilities and delegate, you're never going to grow your business. And there's nothing worse than not being able to step into those leadership capacities and to get paralyzed by them. So all of you guys out there who are wondering, should you be starting a business? My question is, that's like, do you actually want to be a leader of that business, or do you just want to be a designer, or do you just want to be the CFO, right? Do you actually want to lead the charge, or do you want to have a particular function within the business? If you plan on having any sort of personnel report into you, then you're going to have to learn leadership skills. If you plan on running autonomously, then you really don't need to, right? Because you're just running and working on your own. And certainly, guys, there are some industries out there where you can run autonomously and not really have to exhibit much managerial leadership. Some of those roles would be like a sales executive, for example. You can be very lucrative at sales and just operate on your own without needing to have other people underneath you. It's when you want to grow something or when you want it to expand and get some breadth in it, that then you actually have to ask yourself, how can I best equip my team? And also, what are my strengths and core competencies? And how do I actually build something that's going to lean into that? So, no one's born a great leader. Those types of skills have to be learned, and there are a lot of different places that you can learn them. There's certainly executive coaches, books out there, and lots of other great kinds of resources to help you when it comes to leadership. So once you've identified kind of how you are as a leader, what kind of organization you want to be building, what are the core values, what's the mission of the business, then it's time to start looking for those key hires. Now, in the beginning, chances are you're hiring just one person who's going to be a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades, and they'll be doing everything for your business, meaning they're likely answering phone calls, maybe helping you keep your expenses organized, maybe also reaching out to vendors. Like, this person might be a jack of all or Jill of all trades. But as you kind of look to grow that, you quickly will move out of that need to be able to look at things like, you'll move out of that need of just having a generalist as an assistant, and you'll move into that need of having more specialized help. So what does that mean? Well, if I have someone who's a specialist, it means that while they might be able to do lots of other things, and while they might be able to be supportive across a number of things, they actually should be focused on the primary thing that they're very, very good at, because they're a specialist. So when do you become kind of a specialist? Well, Usually at about like 5 to 10 years into your career, right? You're like, okay, this is my lane. This is the path. This is the thing I'm a specialist in. Doesn't mean you can't pivot, learn, and grow other areas, but it means that if you're being hired to do a specific function, you have some mastery around that function. When it comes to things, like leveraging and using talent like that in an organization, your specialist is best at doing the things that they are great at, which means if you're going to hire someone who's going to come in who says, I'm a specialist in, let's say, buying, right? Yeah, maybe they understand marketing, maybe they understand that, but their specialization is in buying. And you give them the entire marketing department to run, right? You don't know if they're going to do well or not. You may be overpaying them for that marketing role and underpaying them for that buying role, right? So be very clear as you're looking at who you're hiring, that you're hiring for specific needs and you understand the levels of qualifications that you actually need to have to be able to hire those people. Right? It's a lot more challenging than just how do I put a post on Craigslist and hire someone to do X. More often than not, guys, I see bad relationships happen between managers and employees when expectations aren't very clear and very direct. Sometimes we can feel like people should be reading our minds. They should just be able to get it. Again, even the smartest person in the world, won't get it, if you're not clear and specific about what you're looking for. What I can tell you though, and what I think is kind of the most interesting thing here is that you can actually tell a lot about someone during that hiring process based on the kinds of questions that they ask you. You can learn a lot about someone's style based on, how they're approaching and analyzing kinds of information. And that'll tell you a number of things. Number one, it'll tell you kind of where their brain is at and how much hand-holding. And number two, it'll tell you just what kind of, how their mind works, whether it's both creatively driven, analytically driven, and that'll also tell you the ways in which you can present information, teach them, and grow them. I used to tell people, if you want to have a fashion company, you also have to think about launching a media company. It's similarly when it comes to capacity building and hiring. If you want to have a company at all, right, you're going to have to become a great leader or bring in a great leader. You're going to have to get good at delegation, getting people to manage up to you, or you're going to have to get the help and get the support so you can learn and grow those skills, or hire someone in entirely to do it. It's not often, guys, that we see owners and founders stepping away from the CEO role and stepping away from that C-suite role. You can always maintain a seat on the board. You can always maintain, the final say in things. But you don't have to rack your brain with trying to be everything to your company that you're not. Bringing on the best people and getting that support, I always think is the best way to do it. Now, for many of you guys out there who maybe have a company of 1 or 2 people, when it comes to growing your team, again, you're going to be doing that growth really from the pain points. You're going to say, these are all the things that I'm doing and I don't want to do them anymore. So who am I going to hire to be able to support me with that? That's a very valid way to go about hiring in the beginning, right? You kind of hire out things based on need. Now, as you kind of move further along, those needs change. And so one of the things you'll get good at in the beginning is firing. And so when you think about growing your team, you want to take the time to be able to find the right people. But if they're not working out, you want to let them go quickly. And when it comes to letting people go, you're going to want to figure out, by the time I let someone go, was it a problem that I had? Was it something that was on my end, or was it something on their end? Did I do everything that I could have done in order to make sure that this experience is a good experience for all of us, right? What do those experiences look like? And so sometimes it might be you have a lack of clear direction and leadership, and so you're unable to be able to really get them to perform. It might also be that they overpromised what their skill sets were and wanted to grow into them, and they aren't able to deliver the work. It might be a matter of time management or project management in order to make sure that things are clear in terms of when they're due. But if you walk out of a relationship with an employee without having learned something about yourself as a manager and as a leader, and also understanding for the next hire what you're looking for now, it has to be more refined. You can't just be hiring people and firing them and saying it's all their fault. It's just really not the case. So to make sure that you're actually getting the right kind of personnel and support, you're really going to want to make sure that every time you let someone go, it's very clear to you why you're letting them go. Make sure you jot down on a piece of paper maybe a few reasons as to some things that maybe you've learned from the experience, so how you're growing as a leader. But all of that, I think, is important. So when you think about growing your team, right, let's kind of go over some of the steps. It's like, who are you as a leader? What do you do? What are some of your pain points? How do we backfill those pain points? How do you create clarity? How do you create vision and direction and strategy for your business? And then how do you disseminate that? Also, when it comes to growing your team, a couple logistics things that are important to remember. Number one, we do a lot of contract hiring, and a lot of different states have implemented various different rules in order to make sure we're not taking advantage of freelancers. So do make sure that the person that you're hiring as a freelancer is actually a freelancer, and they're working freelance hours, and maybe they have to have a business entity set up so that the tax issues don't become a burden or a problem. So do make sure that when you're looking at the organizational chart between full-time hires and part-time, or even freelance, that you're actually working with the right kinds of hires based on your budgets and your needs. What I've oftentimes seen are people who overuse contractors, when actually at the end of the day, if you overuse a contractor, you might have been better off actually just hiring someone full time. It might have actually saved you a lot more money. So make sure you use contractors when you need to, but obviously keep yourself open and keep speaking to your tax accountant and your bookkeeper about when might be a good time to transfer over that contractor or that contract role into something that's more full time. There are other things that you're likely not going to want to insource right away. So very rare do you have like an in-house marketing department, right? Very rarely do you have someone, in-house who's running sales, right? A lot of people will hire agencies, hire showrooms. And when it comes to working with external agencies, you still need to provide them with a lot of clarity. You still need to be able to tell them where the business is heading. The only difference is that you're not accountable for their performance on a day-to-day basis. You're accountable for their performance at the end of the month or based on that deliverable or that project. So you kind of get to hand off some of those responsibilities of management and of people when you do work with agencies and showrooms and things like that. At the same time, there are so many benefits to growing your team internally. So number one, if you do have a team or you're looking to grow an internal team, you can run faster, make decisions better, and be able to really be more agile when everyone's internal. It's also, if you hire the right talent and people, a tremendous cost-saving measure. Right? You're able to get away without having to spend all that money for these different agencies, and you're actually able to kind of save that and take it internal and develop and grow people who are going to be with you for, let's say, at least 2 to 5 years. The other thing that's interesting I want to mention here is I said 2 to 5 years, and when I normally interview people, one of the things that I always ask them is, where do you want to, not where do you want to be, but what do you want to put on your resume when you're done working with me? What are the things that you are driving you in your life that you really want to get some exposure to, that you really want to add value to your own, to your resume? And I think at the end of the day, when you talk to someone and you treat them as if they're a peer, no matter if they are your assistant or the lowest level employee, treating someone like you're their peer gives them a sense of ownership and respect. That's very important. And also has them be very bought in to what the final result is, because they know that you see them as autonomous and someone who also has a future. I remember, and I think one of the reasons why I feel this way is because I remember when I was at Macy's and I got the job offer at Barney's, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And I'd only been at Macy's for a year. And I remember going into the HR department there, and the guy sat me down and he was like, he's like, why would you want to go to Barney's? You know, Macy's is, you know, heritage and it's this and it's that, and kind of like almost shamed me for the opportunity that I had in front of me. And I remember telling him like you would also take this job. So like, I don't know. Like I was like, this makes no sense to me. And I've lost a lot of respect for you for trying to shame me out of not taking another job. You know, it's more, the question needs to be more like, how can I retain you if you want to retain somebody? Or the question, if it's not retention, then it's, hey, that's really wonderful. Congratulations. Like, when do you need to go? How do we wrap this up? You know, in our industry in fashion, people move around to so many businesses. You know, you never know who's going to be in your network. You never know who's going to be close to you, who you're going to see again. So making sure that you maintain those relationships and be positive when people go through transition is very, very important. If someone asks you, hey, do you guys have health insurance? Do you have a 401k plan? And you don't, you can say, no, we don't, but it's something we're looking to implement when we get to X amount of volume, right? It's all about showing that you have the responsibility and the foresight and planning to be able to do that. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks for watching. You know, a lot of these kinds of hiring practices and managerial skills can be found in a lot of books. I've certainly developed a lot along the roads just from, let's say, struggling up with a lot of it. I feel bad for some of my older employees because I was struggling through maybe more than I'm struggling through now. But the things that I, you know, struggle with today, even, you know, with managing a team is being able to take responsibility when things don't work. You know, at the end of the day, if someone made a mistake, as a leader, you have to take the responsibility for that. That's sometimes struggling for me when I want to be like, actually, like, you messed that up. But okay, as the CEO, it's my responsibility. And that's an important thing to take. You know, the other thing that I struggle with is making sure that I continuously develop people and being patient with that. Right? Like, those are my struggles, being patient. I'll be like, why can't everyone just get it? Like, why do I have to repeat myself? And that's just my personality trait, right? Like, everyone has their own ways of relating to this stuff. But for me, I kind of want everyone to jump on board and get it fast. And I have to remind myself, like, okay, you know, how does this person learn? How does this person receive information? Like, how can I best support them in executing this idea? And the most incredible thing about investing in people is that not only do you invest in them to be able to take things off your plate, right, which allows you to do more stuff, but you're actually giving them the gift, right? And that's the gift of feeling accomplished, the gift of growing, the gift of being able to take and share that experience forward. And you get a bunch of shit taken off your plate so that you don't end up you know, working 14, 15 hours a day because you don't trust anyone to do it. If you want to grow a business, you're going to have to trust people. If you want to make any money in this industry, you're going to have to trust people. You cannot and will not succeed all on your own. And when I think about growing your team, I think about what it means to grow your community. You know, you want your employees to be able to tell you, like, the honest truth about a situation. You want them to be able to speak up to you. You want to be able to have open dialogue and conversation around how you're showing up for them as much as how they're showing up for you and for the business. It's a very intimate relationship, and generally speaking, more so intimate, really, because it's your baby that they're working on. So of course it's going to be more intimate. It's not as if you guys are all working at another company. It's your company. So it's very, very personal. All right, guys, I haven't seen any questions kind of popping up here. I'm hoping that it's either because you are so blown away with all the stuff to think about, and it's not because you guys are like, what the heck is she talking about? So I'm hoping it's because there's some resonance here with some of this stuff, and that you guys are able to see your teams as kind of a bigger macrocosm. All right, Joanne, let me just read this out. I am the foundation stages of starting my company. I have secured a utility patent. Congratulations. what are your thoughts on having people I hire or partner with sign NDAs? Is that norm within the fashion business? How do people normally react to that type of request? Specifically because I have an IP. Have you had this experience? Yes, I have had this experience. Look, NDAs are great to send out because I think that it has someone, you can send it out. Whether or not it's enforceable or if it means anything, it's you can send it out, and I think because you have a patent, that gives you some better justification. You can say, hey, we have a patent pending, or we have the patent. Can you sign an NDA? But I would be careful across which industries. So if you're talking to a marketing agency, do you need them to sign an NDA? Probably not, because they're not so intimately involved in the intricacies of your product. If you're hiring someone who's going to help you on gross margin planning and assortment planning and understanding your production and things like that, then yeah, you may want to have them sign an NDA because they're going to have some more intimacy. I can tell you one thing though, NDAs are really hard to enforce. So you can send them out, but might make you feel a little bit better, but not going to be able to do a whole lot unless you actually see someone infringe on that NDA, and then you can enforce it. But going to be hard to find that out. Okay, what do I think is the most important first hire? Okay, so when it comes to the most important first hire, it's the pain points, right? So when I talk about the pain points, I really mean like whatever you are struggling with the most in this moment should be the person you hire. So I'm not a designer, right? I'm a business person. If I wanted to launch a fashion brand, I'd probably hire a designer because I'm no good at that and I would need that. And that would be my biggest struggle. So you look at your struggles, right? Maybe you are the designer and you're trying to figure out marketing and sales. Okay, well, maybe you can kind of hodgepodge your way through some marketing, maybe. But sales, you're like, oh, I hate sales. I can't do it. I hate being friends with people I don't know, right? And so I might say, okay, well, in that case, maybe you need to hire a salesperson. So you really guys need to take a look at what are your biggest pain points? What are the things that you actually want to, you need to fix for yourself first, right? That I think is the most important. All right, guys, that is all from me. We have one question here. Eliana, hi, I'm just starting my company. What services does your company offer? Well, Eliana, you can find more about scaling retail on Embark.live. We absolutely love being a content and a service provider through them. Scaling retail does offer tremendous consulting services across businesses that are launching and scaling new projects and ideas. We work with small to medium-sized companies internationally. We do everything from opening up retail stores towards designing experiential. We become the outsourced CEOs or CMOs for a lot of companies, and that's very exciting. And when it comes to the agency services that we offer everything from your programmatic on marketing, advertising. We're looking at things like your brand DNA, your positioning. Those things are really critical and essential to the foundations and to the launch. And then on the consulting side, we have a team of consultants that focus on operation planning. They focus on sales planning, building out your marketing strategy, gross margin analysis. Originally when I started this company, I started it with the intent to be the Accenture or Bain & Company for small companies in fashion and retail. And I'm happy to say that we've accomplished that, which is really cool. So we don't design. We're not designers. Don't do production. Don't do any of that stuff. But all the other business stuff, how do you make money? That's what we do. All right, guys. That is all from me. Do we work with small businesses? Absolutely. And thanks for asking your question. I really appreciate that. All right, guys, that is all for me today. Please make sure you sign up at Embark.live. Always a pleasure to be here, to be able to chat with you, to be able to talk to you about what's happening in terms of growth of business. So many different things and places you can go to get your information from. Really an honor to be a voice in the industry for you, and to be able to shed some light on important things that not a lot of people talk about. All right, that's all for me. Thanks. Bye.